Hello and welcome back to the monthly Automotive Market Minute, which may take just over a minute. My name is Steven Georgilla.
My name is Phil Trepetowski.
My name is Chris Gatterson.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. Phil, if you could be so kind.
Today, we will be overviewing a couple trends from last month, July 2023. A couple things that we're going to focus on. Consumer sentiment starting to trend higher. Price of electric vehicles, especially the Ford F-150 Lightning. Chris has some thoughts that he'll be sharing on that. We're going to talk about how used vehicle prices are starting to depreciate again and what that means for you and your dealership. We're also going to touch on new vehicle sales. In July, they posted a 15% year-over-year gain. And lastly, dealers are opening up their spending and profits are starting to level. So getting into consumer sentiment, you can see that consumer sentiment has been trending higher. We are expecting a strong August as the consumer is alive and well right now, as you can see by this graph. Inflation is starting to come down. The labor market is not quite as strong as it was a year ago, but the metrics are a little bit varied and they do not indicate any major deterioration. The headline unemployment rate declined from 3.5% to 3.6%. But as the Fed raised rates by 0.25% in the last monthly meeting, you can see that the impact that has ultimately had on consumer sentiment.
Chris, you had some thoughts on electric vehicles, and while the consumer sentiment has been picking up or staying strong, if you will, we know you as an electric vehicle owner, you've also kind of been into that whole market. You had some feedback regarding not only your experience out at where your original place you purchased your Tesla from, but also some prices coming out from the major manufacturers. What are your thoughts there?
Well, a couple of things, because when we're talking about sentiment, I don't know that I've ever been so disappointed as to when I was looking to get the F-150, the Lightning. Obviously, I have a Tesla now. The price was around $30,000 to $40,000, and now that it's available, it's gone up $20,000. And so, can you imagine if someone was planning to purchase that vehicle and they got all their money together, maybe put a down payment down or a deposit down, and whenever it is actually available, it's way out of their price range. So that's one piece of it. And another piece is that I'm noticing that more and more electric vehicle suppliers or sellers are starting to group up. So when I have a Tesla and I go get my vehicle serviced, guess what's right next to it? It's Rivian. And so I spend an hour at the service, in the service department waiting for my vehicle. And of course, I'm going to walk on over and test out the Rivian, because why not? And it's available. And they have them all on the lot, of course, just, almost just asking for you to test drive them. So those are two things that I've noticed, much more recently than ever.
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing from our Ford dealers about the Lightning. It's people are coming in, and those that were excited are many of them are not excited anymore. Go ahead, Phil.
Looking at the days supply, wanted to focus specifically on the new days supply. Here, this yellow line, you can see this is 2023, well above 2022 and 2021 levels. So we have a couple dealer examples of some dealers who have been taking advantage of the increased inventory. On the right-hand side, you can see that currently used days supply is a little bit below 2022. However, we have started to see used vehicle values depreciate. And so I wanted to also touch on the retail sales for both new and used. Again, new is here on the left, and you can see 2023 is well above 2022. New vehicle sales in July were up 15% year over year. And so we are starting to see some dealers really start to take advantage of that increased inventory, the strong consumer sentiment, and that is really starting to increase new retail sales.
Yeah, so go to slide 6 here real quick, Phil, and I'll use 6 and 7. What I find interesting is because of the large drop of average price of used inventory in the month of June. I think it was the second largest drop on record. It's interesting because many dealers then ended up doing stop buys because they had lost a bunch of money on vehicles, or they knew that they were going to lose a bunch from a gross standpoint going into July. And we saw dealers that sold the same amount of vehicles in July versus June, and the grosses were, gosh, some of them were 75% less as a whole because of that drop, or as a contributor. But you look at the dealers that are going aggressively towards new for a couple reasons. Number one, they want to eat up market share, and they know that the factory is incentivizing them to move more of those vehicles, but they also are going to get more trade-ins, and they don't want to go to the auctions. And so this is an example of a VW store in the Dallas market that quickly, after starting with us, really focused on new. And then Phil, if you want to go to slide 7 here.
Yeah, what about those Stellantis dealers?
The Stellantis dealers, it's a really interesting situation because many of them have plenty of inventory. We're hearing about dealers that are selling a tremendous amount of them, buying from small town dealers that can't get rid of their inventory, especially because the average cost of inventory is very high. But this is an example of a dealer out in Maine that's aggressively pricing. And again, they're working the machine where it's like, well, we'll get, if we're going to do a 60% trade-in rate, if we're going to sell 70 vehicles, we know that we're going to for sure get 30, 40 vehicles from a used standpoint back in stock. And maybe they're not going to sell as many used vehicles, but they are going to make gross. They are going to make $3,500 or $4,000 per copy on those used vehicles. So feed the machine if you want to be aggressive on the new side, and you can take a little bit of a hit there. And that is what I want to finish with is the dealers that have new vehicle sales that are stagnant year over year are holding gross. And if they don't want to have the discussion about it, fine. We've got 50 dealers across 16, 17 states now. The discussion is the same. Yeah, I'm holding gross. I got to be honest. I'm at 75, $8,000 a copy. And it's like, you could replenish the used if you just took $4,000 a copy. And we're seeing that across the board. So Phil, do you have any other comments on that?
Not today.
Cool. All right. Well, we very much appreciate your time. On behalf of Chris and Phil, my name is Steven. We'll see you guys next time.